studio.
Hi, I'm Heidi Smith. I'm here with Warren Raisch, and we wanted to talk a little bit about the challenges that chief marketing officers are facing in the market today. Recently, there was a study published, a joint effort between IBM and Oxford, that interviewed over 2,000 CMOs and asked what are the biggest priorities that they have to face in 2019. 5 key themes emerged. Warren, I was hoping we could chat today about what those themes are. What are we seeing in the marketplace with the folks that we see, and how do we help people address these things in really tangible ways in the market going forward?
Looking forward to it.
Great.
Let's do it.
The first key priority that we see is how do we help increase sales or revenue, which sounds like a really obvious thing to anybody in this space, but clearly if it's their top priority, they're not achieving the goals that they've hoped to so far. So what do you think we're seeing, and how can we help move that needle forward?
As you mentioned, Heidi, we spend a lot of time with the global leaders of financial services, and there's a trend, even that transcends financial services. It's marketing in general right now. With the onset of digital marketing comes a new responsibility for the CMO of more accountability, because the promise of digital marketing is that it's measurable and accountable, and you can actually drive revenue against it. So there's a term that gets bantered around the industry around becoming a revenue marketer, and it's unfortunately it's additive to CMOs. So it's not that they get out of their other responsibilities they had before this trend happened. They were much more activity based historically. So that meant how many trade shows a year did you do? How many leads did you throw over to sales? It was counting activities that they did. Nowadays, those activities have to translate into ROI and translate into revenue, which means that the marketer can't stop at just doing great branding and great activities. They have to move down the funnel and actually stay engaged in sales all the way through completion so that they get accountability. So it's a huge burden, and basically it calls for the marriage of technology and analytics and new marketing practices for the CMO to get into. So that's kind of what I'm seeing right now. It's made a lot of marketers uncomfortable, to be honest, because like I said, their roles are shifting. There's also another trend that I like to talk about, which is basically the spend that goes with that. That helps a little bit. About 2 years ago, there was a pivot in the spending within organizations for technology, and CMOs actually now have more technology budget than the CIO within an organization.
Right.
So with that budget comes higher accountability, though, as I mentioned earlier. So it's a new set of responsibilities, and it's actually putting a burden on the organizations. And new roles are emerging from that, like technology, marketing technologists. There's a reliance. There's always been a friendly kind of friend and foe relationship between marketers and the IT department. Now marketers are taking this new budget they have, and they're hiring their own data scientists, and they're hiring their own practitioners that are technologists that are under their line of authority, so they can get things done at the speed of an agile marketing organization. So those kind of trends I'm seeing happening right now.
Right. I think, too, some of the barriers that we see to them being able to realize this value and revenue creation is they haven't had the reporting tools that they needed, especially real-time tools. What are you seeing in the market that help address that problem, and is it something that we can directly affect?
Absolutely. We with our marketing platform, WCA specifically right now, I see that as kind of the centerpiece for a new platform for integrating with all of the disparate tools that they have, the marketing stack that is currently being used, bringing it all together in one omni-channel kind of interface, and then providing analytics as part of that as well. So when I talk about our marketing solutions, I typically don't name the products. I talk about capabilities. So we talk about an omni-channel platform. We talk about reporting. We talk about playbacks, things like that they can do to get that real-time kind of interface and acknowledgement. So I would just talk about all the vast capabilities that we have to solve the problems that way. And we do have a lot in our sales basket to talk about.
All right, that's great. I know it's been a big challenge, having been on the other side of the table for a while. Having those tools at your disposal to, in real time, be able to show the value of the campaigns that you're running and get budget for the next group of them is a very big deal. So I'm glad to hear that's on everybody's radar. The second key priority is improving the omni-channel customer experience. That's been the buzzword for a few years. Omni-channel, where does it live? Does it live in technology? Does it live in the chief marketing officer world? Clearly this report would say over 2,000 chief marketing officers say it belongs to us. How do we address it?
Yeah. And that, for years we tried to tick it off through a multi-channel approach, which was, let's get mobile up, let's get social up, let's get our web interface done. But we ended up just creating more silos within the marketing organization. And the omni-channel challenge is really bringing that all together into one unified view of the customer. So no matter where the customer is coming in, we look at her engagement with us and say, okay, she's in a branch, or she's at an ATM machine, or she's on her mobile app right now. And we bring that into a single view, and our platform is a perfect platform for doing that and having that discussion. So when we talk about our marketing platform, we have to move beyond the classic, it's an email service provider kind of discussion, and say, no, it's an omni-channel platform enabled by our UBX capabilities to actually bring in data sets and bring in other third-party tools to really give that 360 view of the customer and a single unified reporting, single interface to look at all the campaign performance and how people are engaging across channel, because that's how customers really operate. They'll move between channels fluidly, and we have to be as agile as they are to respond that way.
Well, let's take just a second on UBX. If I understand you correctly, that's a tool that allows, we've heard there can be up to 90 tools in this marketing technology stack at any given company. They're clearly not all belong, they don't live in one place, they don't belong to one company. So UBX, you're saying, allows the interconnectivity between all of those various players, and you can pass that data to these tools in a more seamless manner than we've seen before?
Exactly. It puts the control in the hands of the marketer, so you can actually choose what data you want to push and pull between these applications. So if you're in love with Google Analytics, for example, you can pull the analytics of web behavior into your 360 view, or if you like to use Sprinkler, for example, for looking at social activities that are going on and social sentiment and things like that, you can pull that in and say, okay, here's the social profile elements that I need to really get a better view of how my customer's engaging with me. So you don't have to go all blue and we're going to get into one platform. You basically can pick and choose the ones you like to use, bring them into the mix, and once again, it's all done through connectors, so you don't have to get the IT department to actually build these. So it's a beautiful, fluid system that way.
Yeah, that's a powerful thing, especially with all the data challenges that we see. Like, how do I get all my data aligned around a customer in one place? So it's a big deal to be able to do that. The third main point that came up out of the study was, how do we reinvent customer experience? And I think the data point is certainly key to that conversation. We see a lot of challenge with, I've got data in 90 different places across my company. That customer might live in all of them. How do I make the most of the data I have to improve customer experience in the space?
Yeah, I think a lot of it is it's generational too. You look at the millennial generation, they may never go into a bank branch, for example. They want to do everything through their mobile interface. They want to scan their checks, do deposits. They want to check their balances. They want to do transfers. All of that through digital channels. So I think it's all about digital enablement across the channels that make the most sense. So pushing it out to the farthest edges of where the customer wants to engage, and then having consistent experiences. So when you are in a digital channel, you're aware that and you're pushing offers and next best actions out to them. You have to have that data connection you were talking about to say, hey, I'm pushing a credit card offer, and do I know that they already got a credit card from me yesterday, and I keep pushing this old offer, that kind of thing. So I think that connectivity is huge in this reinvention. So you have to have a good foundation of data exchange between your various silos in your organization. But as we talked about a little earlier, you don't wait for all of it to be connected, because it's never going to happen in our lifetime. Just deal with the data you have and make the best decisions you can against it. And it's going to be better than just doing one size fits all marketing blasts out to customers.
I think that's one of the biggest challenges that I hear. I mean, it's a 20-year-old problem. How do I get my data all in one place? And if you start with how do I get all of my enterprise data in one place before I ever go try to tackle these problems, you're not going to move the needle. So how do I identify the most important 20, 40 variables and begin somewhere, right?
Right. I think just personalizing that on a very light level, like just by name alone, that's huge. Just welcoming them by name, knowing a little what you know about them, and using that to your marketing advantage is critical. So yeah, you'll never get it all, but you got to start somewhere.
Yeah, somewhere small. The fourth priority that surfaced from the study was demonstrating return on investment. We talked a little bit about that before. Marketers have historically had a very difficult time getting to our specific marketing discrete tasks value. What are we seeing?
Well, it's all about measurement, right? And so, that's why data scientists are now becoming part of the marketing organization, so that they can actually track from acquiring a new customer through the onboarding process, through growth and loyalty right now. So really getting that 360 view of the customer, or as close as you can get to it. Even a 180 view of the customer is better than most marketing departments we have engagement with today. And then putting measurement in place. Almost everything is measurable down to a click level. So particularly through the digital channels, which we spend a lot of time with. So you can look at mobile interactions of how much time they're spending in the app, what are they doing in the app, that sort of thing. So you can start tying an attribution model around, they spend so much time doing it in this channel and then ultimately ended up buying in another one. But there's models and analytics that are available now to build those out and have true defensible ROI. But I think part of it is culture, which we'll talk about in a minute, but you got to get a common language of what is a conversion anymore,
Right.
And get everyone to agree on that as a success metric, and then start building your models against that. But the tools are all there, and the good news is we have them right now with our platform.
We have some industry benchmarks built into some of those tools as well, don't we?
We do. We refresh those once a year, and then we do them across industries, so you can actually do peer-to-peer comparisons of how other financial services clients, for example, are doing in hitting those goals. So we do refresh that once a year.
It's come a long way in a couple of years.
It has, yeah.
So the last one is, how does a chief marketing officer champion a culture that's very customer focused? And in the face of all the things we've just talked about, demonstrating ROI, increasing our sales revenue, how do they get to a place where they're distributing across the organization this infusion of culture around the customer?
Yeah, I think it's got to be a top-down infusion. So you really need the CMO and the CEO really to agree on the fact that customer is the king, and we whether you standardize on something like NPS scores, which tends to be a common agreed upon set of metrics. So that might be one way to do it. Another way is to, we have done it, I did some work with Best Buy a few years back where we actually built 7 corporate personas, and we basically circulated that around the organization at Best Buy and said, okay, these are the customers that we serve every day, and we gave them names, and we actually built, I was at a digital agency at the time, but we built life-size pictures of these people and actually took them company picnics and things like that. So it started to infuse that, if you're serving Mary as a profile or Betty or whoever it is, this is their profile type and this is what they expect of you. So you basically bring it to life a little bit more for the culture. So I think NPS scores, I think top-down buy-in is very important. Otherwise, you're going to get siloed pieces of customer success, but never the full customer success. And then connecting the dots on those various silos.
I think too, you've got to do some things in the rank and file to begin to change that culture, because we hear a lot of, well, this is the way we've always done it, and what am I pushing against to affect change? Like, I can't do that. My compensation plan doesn't allow for it, or my peers don't allow for it, or my leadership doesn't allow for it. How can we help begin to change that culture alongside some of these CMOs?
Yeah, that's a great point. Compensation drives behavior. No matter how much you put signs on the wall or make people feel good about what they're doing, at the end of the day, they're going to take care of their families and do what they're comped to do. Nobody wants to lose their job over doing the right thing, right? So I think that's once again why the CEO, you need executive buy-in on this kind of cultural shift, and they've got to take it all the way through HR and comp plans to really shift the behavior.
I think there's also a very real role for people like us to play in these organizations, because having some third party in these organizations that's not affected by their comp plan can help make some of that progress by sharing industry insights and bringing to life some of these best practices in ways that they're not able to necessarily make the same progress we might. So
yeah, you and I have seen that, and we do a lot of executive briefings, and oftentimes we're actually introducing different departments that have never, they know of each other, but they've never been in the same room together, and we're bringing them together around a common cause. And it happens to be enabled by technology, but it starts by getting around the cause. One thing I've had success with in prior lives too is actually giving a name to the movement. So you basically, you call it something like the innovation movement or the customer-centric movement or something like that. And you do some internal branding around the program, and people then kind of say, okay, I'm on board with that, versus just, let's do solve world hunger or something like
Right.
that. It's just too big and too broad, so you brand it, you market it, and you get people engaged around tactical tasks to make it happen.
Yeah, I agree. Well, Warren, thanks for the chat. I
It's
enjoyed
been
it.
great. Yeah, thank you.